Hello, welcome to Framework. I am Al Schwartz. With me, as usual, is John Bernard.
Hello, it's me.
And joining us today is a special guest, Mr. Dan Shea. Dan, say hi.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Dan's here to talk to us about the Predator franchise. And the newest installment, Prey, that just came out recently to pretty good notices. For starters, guys, Prey's a pretty good movie, right?
Oh, very, yes.
Yeah, yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Is that a terrible title?
It's not a great one.
I have many thoughts about all of the Predator franchise refusal to just they don't want to use the numbers, they don't want to change it up. Yeah, just is like trying to Google all of these was very difficult. Anytime I wanted like a piece of information about Predators, because then each one there's also another movie called.
It's a different naming convention for every sequel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I found it incredibly irritating that the Predator, the one immediately prior to Prey, oh, that's a tongue twister. But all the rest of the series, including the Alien versus Predator movies, are on Hulu, and the Predator for some reason is not. And man, trying to search 8 different streaming services for did you mean Predators? No, I did not mean Predator. I did not mean Predator 2. I did not mean Predators. I meant the Predator. And it was just it was incredibly aggravating on that front.
Did you end up paying to rent it like I did?
Yeah, I did.
Or technically it was Meg's Amazon, so Meg paid $3 for me to.
Meg is my sister-in-law. Anyway.
Oh yes.
So thanks for the present. But my thing about Prey though, it seems like a natural progression of the naming convention, but also like, I don't know, does not seem to situate us properly within the Predator franchise. Although it also raises the question, what is the Predator franchise at this point?
Yeah, I mean, this is like the opposite of a franchise of the current trend in franchises, whereas there's a guiding hand and they all kind of build towards something, and they're all they're intended to be consumed together. These are just, they're separated by like 12 years or 3 years, or entirely different characters in every film, entirely sometimes different rules on how predators work and what their deal is. It almost feels stupid when they try to tie it to the other films. Like it feels like they sort of feint towards that occasionally, and certainly in the later films, but it doesn't really add up if you try to figure it out. It's
true. There's always the threat that there's going to be an Arnold cameo, like at the end of any given movie, and we're going to be into like actual franchise territory.
I don't want that at all for them.
No, God, no. Talking about the Predator, the Shane Black one from 2018 that I watched yesterday, and there's like a post-credit stinger there which has it's terrible, but so it features the surviving characters at like an Area 51 space where they find this alien pod that the good guy Predator had left as a gift to humanity that is supposed to contain the quote unquote Predator killer. And it's like slowly over the course of like 45 seconds, hissing and steaming and opening. And the whole time I'm just going, oh, don't be Arnold. Don't be Arnold. Don't be Arnold. Come on. And then it turned out to be an Iron Man suit.
It might be even dumber. Helmet. It might be even dumber than Arnold. Yeah.
It's even dumber, but I would have hated it more if it was Arnold.
Arnold was supposed to be. They were in talks for a cameo and he turned it down. Yeah. It was. I don't know if it was supposed to be that moment. And is that the moment where he goes and he visits his 10-year-old child who now works for the
yes.
We're meant to believe that he is now an employee of the government or something.
Well, his child is somewhere on the autism spectrum, which the movie posits means that he is the next stage of human evolution.
Yeah.
That's a neat one.
He's like Professor X.
The Predator takes some wild swings. That one's that might be the strangest of the entire run.
Yeah, it does a lot of things that you would see in 80s movies, like something like that where you would look back and be like, oh, that's kind of offensive, but it was the 80s, they were taking these big swings, and you're like, no, this was just made in 2018. This was...
Yes, it has a very 1988 approach to mental health issues, which are way more front and center than I expected.
Every single character.
From a Predator sequel.
That's right. Yeah, like even like the supporting side characters have various mental issues, right? Yeah, Thomas Jane, Keegan, all of them. They're
yeah. But we're getting really sidetracked on The Predator. Should we talk about Prey for a bit before we get delve into the larger franchise?
Probably. It's the new hot thing that everyone likes and saw. Yeah. I only a few damned souls like us went back and watched The Predator and all the rest of them.
Well, so okay, the good thing about Prey, I think it does the thing that I think a lot of people have asked for 30 years now, which is just completely new environment and new characters, and just why don't the Predator hunt fill in the blank? And in this case, it's Native Americans in the 1700s. That cast being led by Amber Midthunder, who is a young girl who wants to sort of prove herself as a warrior in her tribe, and hijinks ensue when the Predator lands.
Yeah, and it worked just fine. Like, great, they did a great job of it. Like, this is, of course, make more movies like this. Like, it should have been doing this for a while. It's pretty solid. It's a fun idea, and I'm kind of at a point where I could just watch them do this for a while, like the Assassin's Creed video games. That's
exactly what I was thinking. Assassin's Creed, yeah, just plop me into a different, like different era and different set of weapons, and remake the rules the same, and I'll watch every single one of them.
Do Rome, do the Pirates Islands,
Vikings, Samurai.
Vikings.
These are the ones that people mention.
Samurai was World War II. I would watch a World War II Predator.
We're in the
midst of
that would be
Normandy. You just have a Predator who's, come on. I mean,
yes.
I was thinking like he'd be stalking the Argonne Forest or something, but you could do different things with that. Well, okay, but so I think this begs the question here, which is, why have they not done this? Why it seems like so simple to just put the Predator in a new context and do another Predator movie, and everybody's got these really basic pitches for it, and yet it took them like 7 tries at the sequels to get to do that simple thing that worked. And why is it so hard to make a good Predator sequel?
Okay. My counter to this is they have yet to make a bad Predator sequel. And in fact,
sir,
sir, I'm
gonna have to ask you to step out of the car.
The bar is considerably lower for a Predator sequel by nature of this B-movie premise that it has, no matter what. That even the worst Predator film is still fairly entertaining on its own terms. Predator 2, just a movie that goes so far out of its way to be a piece of shit, to be an unwatchable bad movie. It's not. It's still kind of fun to watch Predator 2. He fights the Jamaican drug lords of Los Angeles in 1997. That's a weird swerve from the jungles, but you know what? It is a new setting, and it's interesting. I'm just like, oh, okay. Urban warfare. Oh, yeah, that'll be different for this Predator. I see. And, you throw in some character actors. There, Danny Glover, Gary Busey, Ruben Blades, and Bill Paxton. And I'm just like, hey, you know what? That's a Predator movie. They tried like hell to make a bad one, and they didn't. And that's kind of true of all of them, I think.
Are you sure they didn't?
They made a movie I've seen multiple times and still enjoy. Now, granted, like I say, it is probably a quote unquote not well made. Probably a bad film in some respects, but it's so much more watchable than your regular bad film. This is it's a pretty indestructible premise. It works no matter how shitty they do it.
Well, here's my. Sorry, Dan. What's your Predator 2 review?
Predator 2 is a difficult one because it is. I am watching it, and every second I'm like, "Oh, that's a mistake. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. This is terrible. That's bad casting. What is this person doing?" And then I get to the end, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll probably rewatch that in a year or so." Like, I mean, it doesn't hit. I mean, Predator. You said something about the B movie, and that's what I mean. Is like Predator itself. The original Predator is a B movie.
Yep.
So anything after that, it's not like they're remaking, I don't know, First Blood. Though I guess First Blood is still a B movie, but I don't know the good different. But like it's so nothing is ever going to rise if you try to make it to the A+, which I think is what which Shane Black tried to do with The Predator. Is like, well, no, I'm going to make like an A+ movie. It's like, no, you're not going to do that. Drop them in the jungle. I think Predators is a great movie. I love Predators. I think that's a bird. They drop them all in the jungle. Do we have some difference of opinion?
Oh my God, Dan, I have so many notes.
Sorry, you asked me about Predator 2, and it's so hard not to.
You talked about The Predator. You said horribly incorrect things about The Predator and Predators, which I guess we'll get to later on. But I was looking for a one-line review of Predator 2.
I didn't say The Predator was an A movie, but I think that's what they were trying to do. They thought they were making something better than what they really were.
I think he was trying to consciously embrace the schlockiness and B-moviness of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think Predator 2, sorry, to answer your original question, is it's almost like because they went so far, because they made so many mistakes, it circles back around to being interesting. We're like watching it and just being like this whole like, it's 7 years in the future. Why, yes. Why are we in LA? Why are we, there's like almost Demolition Manning it, where like, the Demolition Man, where they didn't go far enough into the future, where it's like, well, this is not that far from where we are right now.
The war zone LA in that movie is a lot of fun.
Yeah. And could have been its own movie. It's like,
it is. Predator 2 is strange how many bad things it does well or good things it does badly. That it is such a strange decision to place it. You mentioned it being in 1997, and it's kind of easy to forget this juncture in time that it didn't come out in 1997. It came out in 1990. So it was this very near future odd choice where nothing really has changed except for some fashions. And I guess they did it just to have license to depict LA as sort of like a escape from New York, LA, more like farther down the path to becoming a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
RoboCop's old Detroit, kind of. It's just like where the wheels have come off society this X amount more than where we are right now. Very conservative kind of way of making movies, very popular in the 80s and 90s. So yes, it just fits into a piece with those films then, with your RoboCops and other, or kind of like fake shitty action sci-fi films of the time. All B-movie stuff, and it's amazing when we talk about those kind of movies, how many of them really kind of transcend being B-movies and are great films in their own right, like RoboCop, like I guess the first Predator. Predator 2 is not that, of course. But it's an alien that hunts other species, and it's all about the sportsmanship, and that is just a great idea. It's impossible to make that not a great idea, and you can make a shitty movie around it, and you will still have that premise, and you will still have action scenes and weird future tech and green day-glow blood. And there'll be somebody says, if it bleeds, we can kill it. And, all those things are going to be there. And so, that's why it works, I think, is because it is purely B-movie stuff. They can't make a great film out of this after the first one.
And we don't know that much about the Predator. And they try, again, another failure of The Predator is where they try to like explain their real motivation and like some science stuff, and it's just like that.
As little as possible.
I want to know as little as possible. I just want to know, like, we know that they're hunting. We know a little bit about their technology, and they can change the technology. Like you said, there's some inconsistency between movies of like how things work, and I can ignore all of that. That's fine. Be inconsistent. Show me something new. But as long we just know the heat vision, we know the kind of the weaponry.
The triangular sniper bead thing is wonderful.
Yeah. Don't ever try to explain to me the politics of their home planet or why they're doing this or how their culture works. Any of that. I never want to know any of that.
I don't think it would benefit them to tell us those things. I can't imagine good versions of those answers.
No, and I would say that they've done, actually, one of the few things the franchise as a whole has done is a decent job of, not a great job, but a decent job of, is not taking us to the Predator home world or subjecting us to too much internal Predator politics. I think there's still more of it in these sequels than you really need or want. But we'll get to that later on. Like, if we're still on Predator 2, I would say Predator 2 is devoid of that. And it managed to avoid some of the missteps of the later sequels. And I think the real problem with it is that it's a action movie without very good action sequences, which is a pretty big ding.
It has violence in it, a considerable amount of violence.
It's considerable violence. I would, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, like, honestly, a thing that makes me like Predator 2 better than I probably would otherwise is just the one-line review that our friend Chris Prentice had of this movie, saying that it felt like it was written by convicts as part of a prison's creative writing program, and he loves it for that. That honestly shifted my perspective on, like, you know what, I do kind of like how like bug fucking amoral this kind of gets.
That is so weirdly accurate, actually. That is so yeah, like those scenes with the voodoo gangs, it's like, yeah, no, we must also take your soul, all those things. Like, there's no reason for that to be in the movie. I mean, is it as simple as like, well, the Predator has dreadlocks, and so we're gonna put these other guys with dreadlocks on screen with him?
Jamaicans,
that's how it started,
who don't do voodoo. That is not a Jamaican thing. I mean, they completely get that wrong. But it was. I like in Predator 2 when they actually show us a little bit of their writing process, when the guy just takes the cocaine and throws it into his face, which is exactly how that movie was made. I mean, Joel Silver at his peak of insanity. Just
I would say the other thing that Predator 2 does badly is miscast Danny Glover.
He feels like the fifth person they called.
It's a decent idea that what you want to do, a different sort of milieu, right? And taking it from the jungle to the urban jungle, I'm sure was part of like the pitch, between blowing rails when they were doing this. And that's not a bad idea. And saying, okay, we're going to do a different sort of like 80s action archetype where it's, instead of Rambo, it's John McClane. It's the renegade cop. And I think, not that Glover does a terrible job with it, but ultimately you are casting Murtaugh to play Riggs.
Yes.
Which creates a sort of discordant vibe for my simplistic
And then you're
brain.
having Riggs fight an 8-foot space monster in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
That's where it's like, and that's the one thing almost in Prey too. They do a little bit of like, I don't think you can have hand-to-hand combat with the Predator, because that just doesn't make, like, they're established to be so unbelievably strong.
Right.
And tall and there's like nothing. And again, going to the first one, it's like you have these superhuman guys. You have Arnold, you have Jesse Ventura, you have Carl Weathers. You just have these, like, Shane Black for some reason, who's apparently hired to do rewrites, and that's why they kill him off so early. But they like, you have these superhumans, and then you go to the guy, who's just kind of a good cop, a strong cop, and that, but he's not fighting he's hand to hand.
No, yeah, he's not a good cop in that he is like treating the streets of LA as a complete war zone and just mowing people down left and right, but that he's a super cop.
He is a bad apple. They do list off. There's that one scene where they're like listing off that he, like, all his disorders and what makes him. It's like all these complaints and use of violence.
It's part of that that era of action filmmaking where you could impress us with how good of a cop someone was by having a superior officer list off all of the ways in which they are a terrible cop. And like, the more laws you break, the better you are at cleaning up these streets.
Yeah, that is funny that is the thing that we wanted from an 80s cop hero, the one who doesn't play by the rules, one who has their own rules. They're not going to get the law get in the way of doing what needs to be done. That's
which is murdering people indiscriminately. I mean,
we don't get that movie
slightly indiscriminately. I would say that one of the other things that's good about Predator 2, it is a mediocre movie elevated by having a really good, like, ending. Final scene.
Yes. Yeah. It's fun.
Great.
And that's I don't know, that's the sort of thing that you can just add in and it doesn't actually answer anything. I kind of like that it just kind of makes it more alien in some ways. Yeah. Like he's got the trophy case and it's got the alien head in there, but he's also got like that
T-Rex.
Yes. Like that's some great shit going on.
Which, like, raises the question, like, do they have time travel technology?
Maybe, why not? What if? Hey, do a T-Rex one. Make the next one about dinosaur hunting. I don't know how you do that, but I'd love to see them try. That'd be fun, right?
That seems like an Alien versus Predator movie.
I'd watch it.
Yeah. That would be fun.
You get Xeno velociraptors when they face hug one of them or something.
Now those movies, those could be better. Alien versus Predator. Yeah, those that seems like a ready-made premise as well that you couldn't go wrong with very easily. But
one of the it was too early. Like Hollywood had not figured out crossovers yet, and so they did it with a kind of on a shoestring budget. It felt like, or maybe not quite a shoestring, but not what it would call for. Put it in this isolated, Antarctic place where it's kind of like, this is not, well, it's in Antarctica, but it's also in like this weird alien pyramid, which is not even using the Antarctic setting really. Although I don't even know what you would do with the Antarctic setting really. It's not as interesting as the jungle or the city or the Argonne Forest for that matter. So, I mean, I don't know. What that one gets wrong, I think, is pretty basic stuff. It's a lack of ambition, not great follow through, not great, no standout casting, just a lack of inspiration generally.
It's Paul W.S. Anderson, right? It's he doesn't make movies I like. That's
the W.S. stands for lack of inspiration.
Yeah, and yeah, it's very samey to all of his entire resume. But I don't know. We don't have to count those because we have a mainline Predator franchise here, and all those.
But we can talk about the two Alien VP movies for a moment, because I think they start they start down the path. It's one of the like classic blunders you're going to get with Predator sequels, which Predator 2 managed to avoid to its credit. But as we learn more about their, I mean, I guess it comes out of the Predator 2 ending that I was just praising, but as we learn more about their sportsman's culture, there's this temptation to make good guy predators. And I posit that no, never. Predators should be dickheads.
Yeah,
I agree. I like the idea of different philosophical approaches to hunting from the predators. So like if you got some who are really into the sportsman quality of it, that they really want to make it as even a playing field as they want, and then are still dicks on top of that. And then you've also got the predators that are just sort of like Trump's kids and want an easy kill that they can just like tie to a stake and just shoot. And so that there is a contrast between those two. And I think that Predators is kind of going in that direction.
And the Predator, I mean, well, Alien vs. Predator 2 is the first one where you get a Predator teaming up with a human.
Is Alien versus Predator before Predators? I guess it is.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So that's technically the third film in which a Predator appears. Wow.
Yeah. Huh. And I think the end of Predator 2 is good. I mean, it takes that as far as I really want it to go, which is the Predators acknowledging his victory and not summarily executing him.
Yeah. I like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, is this helped at all by the fact that none of these films seem to be to have gotten their story straight with how the Predators worked? And
I like the idea that Predator culture is a bit messy. But I wish they would take that in ways that weren't steering it towards, actually, they're kind of the good guys. Like they're an honorable samurai, warrior culture, which like these, they're hunting intelligent, sapient species for sport. Like, let's not pretend that this is an honorable thing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think they've ever quite crossed that. I guess they did in Alien versus Predator. That's the most hero Predator you get.
Probably, yeah. Watched or halfway watched Alien vs. Predator: Requiem today, and that's one where you still have the alien, or the Predator. His main focus is hunting down the aliens, which are like the more bad guy. But I think one of the only things that movie does well is the Predator is also a bad guy in himself and has no regard for the human life.
Good, yeah, that's what you want. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it can prove itself, even does it allow humans the chance to prove their mettle, as he does sometimes? No. Okay.
No, but that's what I want from the Predator. And what I don't necessarily want or need is the part where the main evil alien breaks into the maternity ward of a hospital and attaches its whole like full-sized head to pregnant woman's face, and like, we see it pumping eggs down their throat, and it's
Jesus Christ.
Does that happen? Wait, where does that happen?
In Alien versus Predator: Requiem.
Well, okay.
At first I thought you were just riffing something, and I was like, this is a really specific thing you don't want to see.
Very dark. I didn't realize that I had this one particular anti-fetish.
Really.
I mean, the Alien versus Predator is PG-13. It's the first one, and it's a problem. Actually, it's like this shouldn't be PG-13. Not with these creatures. I guess they went the full opposite way on Requiem. That's the one I haven't seen.
I mean, you could call that an overcorrection, maybe. Like, I mean, I guess err on the side of being too nasty rather than too cuddly with your predators is what I'm overall saying. But Requiem's a bad movie just because it's badly shot, has no compelling actors in it, and no characters that are interesting in any right. But it is mean enough. I'll give it that.
Well, that's something. I mean, hey, everyone was bringing something to the Predator movies.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, what did Alien vs. Predator, the first one, bring?
Aliens, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, just fulfilling the promise of the end of Predator 2 and the xenomorph skull, you know.
Well, and they got a lot of money from the Antarctica Tourism Board to set the movie there, so it was really kind of just
We missed an opportunity to see, like, all is well, the good guys won, and then a fucking penguin flops over and has something burst out of its chest and sort of waddle away.
Maybe I don't know, maybe throw the thing in there at the end. That would have been kind of fun. And, now the thing.
You should have at least they should have passed it like frozen in ice at some point.
Yeah, there's if you could request of Hollywood a crossover, a Predator verse fill in the blank. I mean, Alien is the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, and they nailed that twice. So naturally. So what's I mean,
RoboCop seemed like an actually decent one. Or what's is there a better franchise that involves like cyborgs or like enhanced humans in some way?
To match Predator? I don't know. Let's see. I mean, Terminator's not as good.
There must be an X-Men villain that is just the Predator, right? The way that like the Brood is just the aliens. But I can't think of what it is.
Craven
the Hunter. You and I both know that's a Spider-Man villain, sir.
I can't say for sure he never fought Wolverine.
Yeah, probably true. Yeah.
But hey, the Craven, I mean, Morbius could fight the Predator. That'd be fun, right? You could just anybody right now, really. Let's see.
Dan asked you a sincere question about what you thought would be a good idea for the Predator franchise, and your response was Jared Leto.
No.
How dare you, sir?
Here's what I want. I want one of the icon slasher horror movie characters to fight him. And I mean, I think Freddy would be dumb. Jason would be a little boring. So I think I want to go Pinhead. Pinhead versus Predator is the movie I want. I don't know how you make that. That seems like two things that don't fit together. But that I want to see the struggle to create that.
And that's not our job. We're just the ideas guys. We're just.
Yeah. But was I supposed to do this line of coke before we did this segment? Sorry, give me a second. I think actually this demonstrates one of the other the two branches of bad ideas for Predator sequels is one. The problem with Alien versus Predator is that it draws you down the path of making the Predator the good guy, which I think is a mistake. The other thing that I have seen bandied about from time to time, and what I guess like Predators is kind of playing around with, is the idea that, the Predator can just hunt a bunch of, like, we don't need any good guys. You can just hunt a bunch of assholes. They can be all convicts or murderers or Nazis or something. And it can be fun to just watch the Predator tear them apart and dismember them. And I think that might be an okay, for an animated short. But for like an hour and a half movie, I think it do need some sort of greater rooting interest there. I guess it is, in a way, that's another way of making the Predator the good guy. If you bad guys.
I think that is actually a very good solution and something I think I would love to see attempted. And I think with the B movie-ness of it all, I think you actually could do that. I think, you said, World War II, that's how you do it. Do like a Nazi one. Do like a Das Boot style, from the Nazi perspective. They're all bad guys, and you're rooting for the Predator.
But I don't think I want to root for the Predator the whole movie.
And then you can have like one allied soldier who's a POW, and then we could see it through their eyes. So you at least have one person that you're cheering for to like get out of there.
Okay,
But other than
that's
that, it's just,
that's good.
That's what it is. You've
that's
got
cool.
They have some like concentration camp prisoners that
I don't know if I need them in the concentration camp explicitly.
Well, they're getting waylaid on the way to the concentration camp, but they're POWs or they're just, they're innocents. Though I mean, I guess that's sort of almost that is what the one female character in the original Predator is. Prisoner of war.
Yeah. Do that though. That's so cool if you do that though. Like that's really interesting.
No. What I say is you do need a rooting interest, I think.
I guess.
And I don't want my rooting interest to be the Predator, because I don't want to humanize the Predator in this way.
Right.
I want them to stay a little more unknowable and nasty and scary.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of what's happening in Predator too, because you're not rooting for the Colombians or the Jamaicans, like
You're rooting for Glover,
Sure.
You're rooting for
you're not rooting for Gary Busey even, really.
I was kind of.
I am. I'm always rooting for Gary Busey. Gary Busey is great in Predator too, by the way. Gary Busey, like if you drop him into a movie like that, he is going to deliver 110%, and he does in Predator too.
Yeah, he's fun in it. He's another role that Arnold could have played. I think that's the thing. I think Prey is the first Predator sequel that doesn't have a role that could have been the Arnold character.
Exactly. Right. Well, maybe that takes us to Predators. That's the next one, right? That's and that was the attempt at a reboot. That's Adrian Brody as in the Arnold role, which I think both works better than I thought it would, and is also like still a major problem with the movie for me.
It's
Adrian Brody's a major problem for you?
Yeah, I think he acquits himself as an action hero way better than I thought he could. But I also just don't really like him as an actor.
I think he might be the biggest problem with that movie, actually. I think he's miscast. And I don't actually think he's bad in it. I just think that, he wasn't the guy. They needed an action hero to do that. And he's just not an action hero. Yeah. Not in the way that you need for Predator.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea is that he's supposed to be a new type of action. He's supposed to be a more Jason Bourne type of like grounded action hero who's not, a roided out steroid monster the way that Arnold and his whole crew basically,
of course,
were. But I don't think it comes across.
Could you put Statham? Because I'm trying to think. Then do you take Adrian Brody out? 2010.
Yeah, absolutely. Statham would be the way to go.
Statham improves that movie dramatically. Actually, I think that's exactly.
There's no emotional weight there. That's talking about what I love about Predators is that we know so little about any of the people who are dropped in. We have just these very basic, like, Yakuza, Eastern European. I forget what the one guy is. Is he Russian?
Archetypes. Yeah. I mean, it feels like the Deadliest Warrior program from Spike TV, kind of. I think it's the same era, really, and. And you're kind of clinging to the cast there. People like Walton Goggins and Danny Trejo are, that's who you want. That's the right people to cast in that movie.
Danny Trejo was casting him and then killing him so early was a brilliant move because I genuinely got sad. I was like, when he dies, because I remember watching it the first time being like, oh, hell yeah, Danny Trejo's in this movie. And then 7 minutes later, he's gone. And I'm like, aw. And it was the start of my emotional journey of watching Predators.
No, honestly, it's like 30 minutes later, but the thing is, it's the first kill and he doesn't do anything before he gets killed.
Right.
So like it might as well.
I don't think it's 6 minutes later. I would bet you it's 11 minutes into the movie because that movie starts. I mean, one of the best starts of an action movie is you just cut in on your main character hurtling through the air onto an having like what a amazing intro, and then just people dropping around him, everyone, and then very quickly they're like get enough information to figure out what they have to do within like first couple minutes to like, okay, we got to team up and figure out what's going on. I love it. I think it's great pacing for an action movie.
Here's the thing though. I agree with you that it's a great opening for an action movie. Is just close up on the hero's face. He opens his eyes, realize he's in free fall, plummeting towards the earth and has a parachute on, and we're off from there. I think this is the big problem with the Predators as a movie, and is not really, even if you swap out Jason Statham in there, it doesn't really fix the main problems with that movie. One is that's a great in media res opening that the movie then squanders by doing, like, they land and then have half an hour of gathering up everybody and like supposed intrigue about them figuring out what their situation is and where they are and what's going on. But we, having seen several Predator movies already, know all that shit. And I'm really impatient for that first like half hour. Like, the movie's called Predators. You told me up front. Compounded by, like, it would be such a cool reveal in a differently constructed movie when they're making their way through the jungle trying to figure out how do we all get together here. This is such a weird scenario. And they break out of the tree line and see this alien horizon with like 3 moons and rings around another visible planet and everything. And like, we're not in Kansas anymore. That's such a cool moment, except that, like, no shit, you're not in Kansas anymore. Also, didn't you all parachute through the sky on the way down here? None of you noticed the 3 moons? Like, not one of you noticed?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could explain it away of that they had other stuff going on, but you're right. At least one of them is going to look around and be like, hey, while I was hurtling, I noticed the moon weird. Looked really close, and there was 4 of them. Yeah. So.
The alienness of that world, I feel, could be more. This movie, I feel like it has so many good ideas, and it just kind of gets bogged down in its limited execution and budget, and just the fact that it's a B movie, like all of these to some extent. But this feels like the James Cameron premise for Predator. You know, we've been talking about him lately. I can imagine that ensemble working really well, working better. I can imagine the alien world seeming more like an alien world. I can imagine, you know, Lawrence Fishburne, like, doing a really great Lawrence Fishburne performance and not a clearly, like, you know, what you want me to be here when kind of Lawrence Fishburne performance.
The Fishburne performance is weird in that I don't think he's doing a bad job or not trying, but it somehow still can feel this palpable sense of, all right, it's Tuesday. You've got me until Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Right. So
exactly.
I'm going to give you all I got for these 4 hours. But
and I don't think he's the only person working on that film with that attitude. You know, I feel like that's kind of the vibe you get watching Predators is that it is we're just kind of throwing this thing together when the premise they had kind of, I mean, that would be the big one. You know, that would be the way to blow this out and try to make a sort of a better film out of a Predators movie. And they just didn't really have the ambition to do that in that case.
I mean, on the other end, I feel like Topher Grace is very excited to be there.
Sure.
Like, I feel like Topher Grace is running around like, I know it doesn't make sense that I'm in a Predator movie, so I'm just going to have as much fun as I can.
He's one of the more fun things in there, and yes, he is committed in a way that everyone else isn't, for sure. Mm-hmm. Like Goggins is, like, quote unquote committed. Like, you know, he's throwing some
I think he
extra
just lives
pepper.
his life that way.
Yeah.
Like, Walton Goggins just walks around with that energy. So he can just throw on a jumpsuit, and
it's nowhere near like that's just Goggins turning on the Goggins for you. It's not his, nothing like his great work. You know, it's not like what we've seen him actually do. And why would he do that with that role either? You know, like, why would that deserve his best?
But this relates to the other big issue I think with the movie is that it assembles this great sort of cast of, you know, assorted ruffians and you know, scum and villainy. Played by some fun character actors like Goggins and so forth. But then it focuses in all of its attention on the 2 least interesting pieces of that ensemble that ultimately are our heroes that I'm like, I'd just rather watch anybody else. Even the scumbags would rather.
Yeah, I mean, it
be
should
spending
feel
time
like,
with.
It should feel like Con Air, that movie, you know,
right?
That should be the vibe, and it's muted in comparison. And you know, it's like I said, I kind of like it still. I remember after when it came out, there'd been a pretty big drought of Predator. You know, like they're really nothing. Some just Predator 2. 20 years prior, and the Alien versus Predator, and that's
which you don't really count.
No, so I was really excited for it to come back, and now we're kind of just like churning these out at a bit more of a clip. That's kind of a surprise turn for this series. It's becoming.
I always wonder what's going on with the IP in the background of like why it took so long, because it was a successful franchise, at least. I mean, like the sequel wasn't like Predators 2 wasn't a huge. It made money though. I mean, it made money.
For sure.
Usually, I mean, at that era, that's all you needed.
Yeah, but it's probably a steep enough drop off from the first one that there was a sense of we need to come up with an actually good concept for the next one.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if I'm being like
that
naive about thinking that ever enters into anything, but that's but this is the question that I I'm posing to you guys is, I think stuff is harder than it appears to be, because it appears to be such a simple concept and franchise, but there are all these weird, pitfalls you get into when you try and expand this world, because you don't want to expand it to learn more about the predators, really.
No. You're right. And I think that is not intuitive. I think most people would think, well, we got it's 6 movies. It's time to learn more about these things. We got to get onto the predator homeworld. We got to see how their society works, how their politics work. I feel like that's a natural thing to want to do, but at the same time, you're right. It shouldn't be. But I mean, at the same time, like, what do you want from this franchise in the end? I think I've already said what I want them is to just remake the same damn movie in different time periods right now, which is just B-movie stuff. That is limiting in many ways. But it's kind of where I hope they go. Just keep remaking Prey for like 3 more iterations, and I'll be very happy.
That'd be great. I mean, Predators for me, and I'll go to bat. I think I'm the most pro Predators person here, so I'll take the bag. It gave me everything I wanted, even though, I mean, any movie like this is going to have problems. Every Predator movie, even the original Predator movie, if you took that exact script and made it today, it wouldn't be as good of a movie. I mean, there's something about just 80s filmmaking that you could do certain things that aren't going to work today because special effects have gone, you don't get the benefit of the doubt as you used to. But I mean, it drops a bunch of people into this situation. It gives us good, like, something I want out of a Predator movie is just interesting and creative traps, because again, you can't fight the Predator. You can't one-on-one the Predator. You have to outsmart the Predator. And like, so that's really all you're looking for, is like, that has to be good, which is the things that like the Predator doesn't do. The Predator is like, oh no, you want a big cast and all this different stuff. And comedy, that's one thing. I only want to laugh 3 times during a Predator movie. If I laugh,
and one of them should be at a particular kill.
Yes. Yeah. One of them should be a dark laugh.
But you made a good point about traps there, which is like, circle back to the question you asked earlier about what's the crossover that we should do. Home Alone, clearly. Predator versus McAllister.
Yeah.
But is it better if the Predator's trying to get in, or if the Predator is trying to stop the bandits? I'm kidding.
I think the Predator gets there because he's stalking the bandits, and then realizes that the real, apex predator of this particular Chicago suburb is Kevin McAllister.
You're right. That's the way you do it.
You know what? You joke, but honestly, thinking about that as a concept of like, because you have all these things where the Predator, you're out in this outdoor world. If you were to make a Predator movie where the prey is inside some sort of location and the Predator is trying to get it, that's the game. That the Predator is trying to get inside of whatever cave,
a home invasion
mansion,
movie.
A home invasion movie with the Predator, and then it becomes this battle of wits. Who can have the smart? What trap? How do they outsmart whatever trap they set up? That would be an interesting way to approach a Predator.
I like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
What is though a big enough and small enough enclosed space that you could set up traps that the hero could know like the terrain well enough and set up traps and whatnot, but also the Predator can't just barrel through it because
some sort of government facility that has, but maybe one that's run down.
No, you know what? Yeah. No, it's a shopping mall.
Ooh,
shopping mall. Yeah, some behind the scenes, so you can be going through back halls and stuff.
Yeah. So it's a mall secure. It's Paul Blart versus Predator. That's the ultimate sequel. We just determined.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I would love that. A mall security cop is a really good protagonist too, because he's completely outmatched. He's
exactly,
he has
but he knows
chance.
the mall.
He knows the mall. It should just be Paul Blart. Yes.
Yeah.
So okay, but this we're touching on some of the other, I think, like difficult challenges of sequelizing Predator. One of which is just that the original was an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah.
And it's pretty darn difficult, I think, to franchise an Arnold Schwarzenegger film without making Arnold, a part of the center of it. Right?
Yeah.
And part of it going forward. Like Terminator has struggled with this mightily. Their last 6 attempts at bat is the storyline of the Terminator franchise clearly seems to like call for moving beyond that model of Terminator, and yet you can't get out of Arnold's shadow because Arnold's shadow is just this unique shape.
He's literally in all of those. So yeah, I mean, I guess the show, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which I have not watched, and I mean, I keep hearing is one of the best Terminator things to exist after T2.
I've heard it was good.
Yeah, and that would also just be free of Arnold inherently. You have to have other actors in there, and you have to do other things with them, because you know he's not going to come do your UPN television show, obviously. Right. So and they cast who they cast? They cast the dude from our guy from Deadwood. What's his name?
Garrett Dillahunt.
Yeah. As the man.
And Cersei Lannister.
So yeah. So they
played Sarah Connor.
Really? So maybe we should watch this.
Yeah, I would watch that in a second. Yeah, I kind of fell off on the Terminators. I've only seen 1, 2, and then 3, and then after 3,
Me too. I have not done anything after that, and nothing I've heard has convinced me that was a bad decision that I should rectify.
I mean, I've listened to the Christian Bale behind the scenes tape multiple times. That's.
You've missed the trilogy of failed trilogy starters, then.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's what the Predator franchise has, that too, that Predators and the Predator both seem like they're, and I guess the Alien versus Predator like want to be starting a larger series of films that do not get off the ground. So getting back to some of the other issues I was talking about that make this harder than it looks is, like we're talking about Aliens with in the Cameron series we're doing coming up, and that is such a a perfect example of taking a pretty small scale first movie and like blowing up the scale and expanding it successfully. And it's kind of hard to do that with the Predator concept because it tends to be a lone hunter. I guess you could do a team of predators.
They tried this. It was Predators, and it was okay. It was,
but it's still an isolated jungle setting.
That was disappointing. I mean, if it had been an alien jungle, that might have been more, but it's pretty regular jungle.
Yeah, it is. I got confused whether they were just recreating, because Topher Grace says the doctor recognized one of the plants, right?
Right.
In that movie.
It's Earth flora.
Yeah.
So it has to be for them to be surprised half an hour in that they're on an alien.
Yeah, this is budget stuff. I'm sure this is budget stuff, but if this is like the maximal version of this, the big budget Predators, $80 million Predator that is rated PG-13, then I think then you're on a Pandora like world or something like that, an alien home world, whatever.
Right.
When I was in high school, I remember that we always talked about how the third Predator would have to be Arnold and Danny Glover get brought to the Predator homeworld. Some sort of gladiator kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of just a version of that. But yeah, like you said, unless they're really going to blow it out, I'm not too interested in the alien homeworld, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't really want that.
Yeah. Right. It gets too close to learning too much.
Yeah.
Like you're going to learn too much. Even Predators kind of talks about, right, there's something with rival clans or something going on there, and that's how he convinces the one to. But
it's worth not paying attention to.
It's
actually.
worth not paying attention.
Yeah.
To. I just glaze over as they're talking about it. I was like, okay, whatever.
It falls into that trap of having a quote unquote good guy Predator that the hero can ally with to fight the bad guy Predators, but does it to like such little return.
Yeah,
ultimately in that movie, that's really not worth the trouble, I don't think. No. But so the other thing is, what do you do with the scale here? Do you go bigger, and how do you go bigger? Because even though it's in a very isolated location, it's huge in the amount of like firepower and muscle mass that you're bringing to bear in that first one already. So how do you go bigger than Arnold's team of knockoff Arnolds?
Well, I think the answer is that bigger is probably not the way to go. I'm curious to see someone try, I guess, but not really. It's not how I'd take it. I mean, I think that like Prey really showed that you absolutely don't need to do that. Like everything that's kind of interesting about this doesn't need any of that. And if you can just make a movie that's good without a Predator, and then you add a Predator to it, then you're probably in good shape, which, I think Prey is kind of the only one that maybe maybe approaches that.
Well, so I think the other thing, I mean, on top of the scaling issue of like, name a really successful sequel that goes smaller is a pretty short list. And, I guess Prey would be one example of that. But there's also the thing that I think doesn't really get counted properly, which is that the original Predator has sort of like a meta level to it, kind of sort of twist to the premise already built into it, which is that it is sort of a slasher movie where the victims, the sorority girls, are a team of Arnold Schwarzeneggers,
right?
And that is such a cool sort of like twist on how a blend of action and horror, and then that's built into the first one, right? So when you just take the Predator into a different context, it's sort of like missing a layer. It's you're taking something away. It's almost like something that could have been added to a third or fourth sequel to really spice things up, but it's there right out of the gate. And I think I think other Predator movies struggle to find, I guess in like 30 Rock terms, a third heat to make it as interesting as that first one.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. That is sort of the X factor that makes the original Predator a great film that can't really be matched, I think. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think you'll ever see a Predator movie as good as the original Predator. It seems like, they've kind of mastered the premise too completely already in that.
Right.
And just the fact that it is these hyper masculine characters getting taken down one by one, you can't really do that trick over and over. Predators basically tries to do that again.
Yeah.
But
its idea of a twist is let's do the exact, like, let's redo Billy's death, but actually show the sword fight.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still kind of cool, as the thing in Predator's column.
That was cool.
But yeah, it's not as effective, and it will be hard ever to be. And I don't know if it's possible, frankly. I don't think you're going to get. I mean, it would have to be a situation kind of like Prey, where sort of a new talented director comes in with a big premise and is able to pull it off. Now, Prey is not as good as Predator, but it's the closest anyone's come, because it was somebody, it's not really a franchise that's going to collect, or attract huge talent.
Right.
You're not going to get Cameron come to do one. You're going to have to get people that are, kind of journeymen,
up and coming,
or
say.
Yeah, up and coming is probably your best chance.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to get Paul W.S. Anderson. That's
exactly, or Robert Rodriguez. God bless him. But he's not going to make a better Predator movie than has ever been seen. It is sort of just one of those things where fresh blood might be their best chance, but at the same time, it's a tall order, no matter what.
Yeah, but that's how we got the original Predator, because that was John McTiernan. That's his second movie, I believe, because that's before he did. I mean, he's coming out of Juilliard. He does something. There was something else that he did, and then he did Predator. Then he does Die Hard. Then he does. There was something in '90, and then he does Last Action Hero. So he had like this, like, you have this young and upcoming guy who's
that is elevating a B movie premise,
right,
in some sense.
Right.
Yeah.
That's sort of McTiernan's specialty anyway.
About it. And then you go to Predator 2, which is some guy. I don't know who.
Right.
I looked at that director. His name is already out. He was like 27.
It's Stephen Hopkins. He's
Stephen Hopkins.
He's kind of a bad director, in my opinion. He's made movies you've heard of, but he's not great.
Yeah, you just assume that he had a great, Coke connect for Don Simpson or whoever in 1989.
Very much like he's a journeyman. Yeah. What did he do? He did The Ghost in the Darkness. I think he did Lost in Space. Movies of that type.
So there's one other, before I guess we get to Prey, there's also The Predator that came between those, which seems like getting Shane Black involved for real this time. Seems like a knockout premise. It's just such a mangled mess of a movie.
Yeah, from what I hear, that everything about the making of this went wrong is a big part of what happened with The Predator.
Yeah.
I found this one, though, a lot more watchable than Predators.
Wow. That's insane to me. And I respect your opinion, but it is completely insane to me. I mean, I guess from a watchability, because it is funny. There's some funny stuff in The Predator.
That's the
which
thing.
Again,
some of the
not
comedy
what I'm
works.
looking at, but like, yeah, like when the wife gives the speech or the ex-wife gives the speech, and they're just kind of like, yeah, that wasn't that good. Like,
yeah, I was like, I wasn't really. Your speech didn't do much for me, and I was like, but he called me a pussy, and that I can't. Do that.
Yeah, there was some laugh.
I have a Marty
loud,
McFly complex.
Right.
And then Theon Greyjoy is walking out and like doesn't even turn around. He's like, I thought your speech was fine.
Yeah, that's funny. But again, not what I'm looking for from a.
But then that wife character just disappears from the movie, like with 30, 40 minutes left into it, and has no resolution whatsoever. Like it's clearly just. I mean, the whole last half hour is so clearly chopped up and reshot.
So much going on. I mean, again, original Predator versus that is how much do we know about any of these characters? Nothing. They're mercenaries.
Mm-hmm.
Arnold and Carl Weathers are friends or kind of friends. Like that's all we know. We don't have any backstory. And then the Predator is like, okay, well, let's learn everything we can about this guy and see his home life and involve his child
trying to introduce
in this. And
it's a more lovable ensemble, sure, is what they're aiming for. Mm-hmm. I thought actually the sort of friendship between the main guy and grown up Moonlight Boy was actually like those guys had a little bit of chemistry. They seemed like, oh yeah, these guys actually like each other. And they've known each other for 2 hours, but they seemed to like be vibing. And I can kind of get behind that more so than Thomas Jane and Keegan Michael Key. And then there's the whole thing of just Olivia Munn's character, which is like, what on earth is going on with it? Like these 6 different versions of this character that clearly existed at different points. Were introduced as a biology professor and then spend 75% of the movie just diving and tackling and firing assault rifles. It's just so fucking weird.
Kicking out the leg of the, presumably some like government high level Schwarzenegger, whatever he's supposed to be in the original mercenary type. And she's just, again, hand-to-hand combat all of a sudden is a part of her repertoire.
Yes. And heavy weaponry. Like that's, takes to it. So, I mean, and it's like, I don't have anything against Olivia Munn. I don't think she's doing a bad job or anything, but just like, what on earth were they even telling you from scene to scene here you were doing? Like, what is your character supposed to be? It makes no sense whatsoever. And it's the most pronounced version of just what everybody in the movie is, which is very blasé about declaring open war on the U.S. military. Like, as just an incident to like trying, I guess, to help this guy they met 5 minutes ago get like help out his son. Like, we're asked to take like very early on and very like on faith, I guess, that the U.S. military is an overwhelmingly sinister operation that
I can take that on faith.
Gets up every morning and just lives and breathes to do nothing except for destroy its own soldiers.
Are you talking about the movie, or is this a?
Yeah, in
the movie, I think posits this.
Yeah. I think in a B movie, I love that actually. I think that's just fine within the context of a Predator film.
I felt I needed a little more context for that. The lengths they're going, but
Sterling K. Brown's performance is enough for me.
It's fantastic.
He is great.
His death is so weird.
Fantastic.
I had to watch it a second time to even see his death.
I rewound it 3 times and still didn't understand what had actually happened.
His death?
Yeah. He's got a mounted.
He turned his head, and then the Predator like shoulder cannon just blew it off.
Yep, that's it.
I don't understand still. I want to say that in order to like make some like, cinematic sense, narrative sense out of this, that Olivia Munn like manipulated him into firing the cannon on his own head, but I had no idea how
they didn't get enough coverage of it or something. Yeah, it's they fucked that up. No other words for it. Yeah.
And
I mean, how about the little kid on the trick or treating when he murders, not on purpose, but definitely?
Yeah, I don't think it's murder, but he does just absolutely just disintegrate. This guy.
Yeah, I guess it's not. There was no intent. It wasn't his fault. He didn't know what was going to happen. But like, that's probably pretty traumatic for a. Again, I don't have kids, so I'll defer to you guys on whether or not you think. That would be
my daughter right now would be fine with it. I think
I have like a normal Homo sapien kid. I don't have a Professor X version of Asperger's kid. Like there's the whole we could spend a lot of time if it wasn't so late in the day already going into all the mental health weirdness of doing the whole loony bin concept and how that's presented.
Yeah, as sloppy a film as I've seen in a while. It is unusually sloppy, even for for a Studio B movie that kind of even just got sneaked onto theaters and screens. Like it's shocking almost that this is the one that was in movie theaters and Prey was not. That's kind of crazy. This one feels like the one that got away. Kind of like we're just like, oh, what do we do with this thing?
But once again, cannot escape the sort of temptations of let's do a good guy Predator and then a big bad guy Predator, and deploys that to very little effect. Which I think is ultimately counterproductive. It also does the thing that Predators does, which is introduces predator dogs, which is not bad as a concept. The idea that the predators are hunters, and earth hunters a lot of times use hounds of some sort to do things, and the predators have some version of that is a cool idea that also doesn't give us too much about their culture, that gets into problematic territory. The problem with both Predators and that Predator, I think, using that concept is just that the design of the dog is crappy and terrible, and it should be a lot more alien.
Well, and it doesn't have to look like a predator,
right?
Like exactly. Our dog, we don't go into the woods with dogs that look just like us. To like,
right?
It's like barely, That's what happens when Cameron's not giving notes on the design.
Exactly. Man, good, very good point. Yeah, because that's the contrast, that the perfect counterpoint to that is how completely alien and distinct from each other both the space jockey and the xenomorph look. And that's I think you could do a completely different type. They could, I don't know, some sort of land octopus thing. But
well, yeah, I mean, it's like in the Lord of the Rings, every design decision has been made by going through a hundreds of pages of material and being like, okay, well this dates from this period. There's a reason that the elves buildings look like this, and that this is what dwarf architecture looks like. Predator movies are like the exact opposite of that kind of preparation and insight into their design. It really is as simple as just like, well, it looks cool, right? I mean, this takes place a few hundred years later, so maybe it shoots spikes instead of bullets. It's just it's I almost charming, I would say. It is charming, the kind of simple dumb things that just frequently sneak into this franchise. And yeah, I mean, I do think that there is inherently a ceiling to how great it can be when you have predator-faced dogs. Right. But it is part of the charm, I think, that this is...
I mean, how much of the Predator success is due to just how cool the Predator looks? I mean, no matter what, in the worst moments of the worst Predators, I'm like watching, I was like, the Predator is so cool. It's so cool. I mean, what an unbelievably well-designed...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it earlier when John, you were talking about how, like, just the idea of an alien sport hunter is like such a solid premise that you can't fuck it up that badly. And I actually, that premise is, there's not that much to that, but you combine it with the incredible creature design. That's what really elevates. And that's what means you can use that creature design and, how their distinct weaponry and all that to such a great, you can use that to such an extent because it just looks fucking awesome and scary and gross, which is part of the reason why you shouldn't try and make heroes out of them, because even when you make the good guy abolitionist predator or whoever that wants to like help humanity, he's still going to have this horrifying,
sea creature mandible.
Exactly. Like
that's well, this is the thing, and this is I think responsible, the sort of B movie thrill of all of this design, this premise is just it implies or sort of creates a ceiling on how great these can be. Like there is a limit. You're not going to get another great Predator film probably ever. But I also think it's this, by the same token, it also kind of creates a basement for how bad it can get. And like I said, they've been trying to make a really shitty Predator movie for a while, and they still haven't made one that I don't enjoy watching on some level. Yeah. It's always kind of a thrill to see this thing get up to business. And that's sort of what's great about B movie premises like this. And I kind of like that we have a tier of this sort of junk You know, even it's like the Alien films, you know, didn't even play in this. You know, they kind of they got elevated quite quickly, and now they're fully philosophical treatises as horror films. I don't think, yeah. Predator has no room.
They got the elevated horror like label attached to them earlier on. Before that was really a big like thing. Before Annapurna existed.
Yeah,
but or A24, whatever. I don't know the difference between those two things anyway. But the original Predator, you know, with the whole Arnold of it all was more of a B movie thing. That was just it was a B++ movie. It was the best version of a B movie.
Yeah.
It can never be mistaken for an A movie.
Let's not forget that the original Predator was an Oscar-nominated movie for best visual effects. I was thinking about that when we were talking about the design. I was like, oh yeah, that was a.
It's a great ass design. I mean, no question. Yeah.
But like you're saying, John, there's a ceiling on this, and I think maybe that's part of what makes Prey good. Like, to its credit, it sort of respects the ceiling on this, and it's like, what can we add to this franchise that's not overreaching? Mm-hmm. You know, the idea that this is a big, ugly motherfucker that is hunting us for sport, and they settle on. Well, I guess it's a little bit of two things, but we can give it a feminist subtext, sort of, you know, a la Fury Road, and do it. It set it in a underrepresented culture of like Native Americans, and that just don't get a lot of play on screen. And that is, you know, that can give us a touch of gravitas, but not, again, it's not enough that we're going to try and make this an A24 movie. It's still
a B movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be an action movie. And eventually she's going to tomahawk this motherfucker to death.
And I think, I mean, just there's some stuff just built in there that is new and fresh and fun, and not just in a Predator movie, but just in any movie of this type. Really, is, you know, shooting this in almost entirely outdoors and on location makes a difference. You know, this movie looks great. You know, for all the CG in it, which I think you need. You know, if you're going to have this many animals doing this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I thought the CG looked pretty good too. But you're right.
Not the animals.
I don't know. I thought Predator fighting a bear, I thought that scene ruled. And I was that's when I was watching it and saying, man, I kind of wish I was watching this on the big screen right now. Like,
I would love to have seen this in a movie theater.
I would love to have seen this in a movie theater. And I don't like seeing movies in movie theaters, really. But this one, I was just like, to watch the Predator. And maybe on a bigger screen, the CG would have looked worse to me. Maybe. Or maybe I'm... I don't know if I was wearing my glasses the whole time, so maybe that's why it was working for me, but...
It was okay. Well, it's noticeable, but you know, I'm getting used to it. And again, you can't actually have animals doing these things in most cases. Right. You know, it would not be possible to do the bear scene the way they did if you had an actual bear.
Yeah, I mean, they would have. That's, again, the evolution of filmmaking in the 80s. They would have just got a bear, might have hurt a few of them, you know.
Right.
And it was...
It did make me want to watch The Edge. I will say, I wanted to rewatch The Edge after watching Prey.
They might have hurt the bear, but then they would have fed it a bunch of cocaine to, like, you know, pep it back up.
Yeah.
To make it up to it.
Oh, quick side note. Did you know that Ray Liotta's last film is going to be called Cocaine Bear? And it's literally about a bear on a cocaine rampage.
Is that that's a true story, right?
Yeah,
I feel like I've heard that
story.
Actually. Yeah.
What have you been doing? Some sort of weird form of Mad Libs over there? But
no, Ray Liotta in Cocaine Bear. It's coming.
Yeah, I'll see that.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll pencil in a date to do a podcast on that one.
It's a similarly potent B movie premise to tie it in. Yeah. You could do a whole franchise of Cocaine Bear, maybe. Oh, here he is in the Aztec Empire. It's
Coca leaf bear. All right. Well, God damn it! Now I lost track. I would say that in praise of Prey, though, like, given everything, all the gripes have just laid at all the feet of every other movie we just run through. If questionable CGI bears is my biggest gripe with your Predator sequel, then, like, you've done a pretty good job there. I mean, I think the toughest thing with what Prey is doing, and what people said, if you're doing it with Vikings or Romans or whoever it's going to be, is just the idea that this thing could lay waste to Arnold and his team of roided out machine gun freaks, but, you know, somebody with axes and arrows has a shot, has a real chance of defeating it is a little difficult.
They're sportsmen, so they're going to level the playing field as much as necessary. Right. Not to their disadvantage, obviously, but and it's also just something that I think you have to buy as part of the premise. Like, the movie doesn't exist.
It's part of the buy-in here. Yeah, so that's why I could accept it. But it is something that I had to get over initially.
If they're a spacefaring race of creatures, then they can just kill us all. Like, if they figured out how to do space travel, then there's no reason they couldn't just end everybody, with a rocket or something more powerful, or something. It doesn't matter.
They've got the the gun that's capable of, or the bomb that's capable of producing a mushroom cloud at the end of the first one is established. If they really want to. So yeah, that's, I guess, the thing that you have to, it's baked into the premise too, is their sense of sportsmanship. Sorry, circling back to shit on Predators one more time. Another issue I have that, well, and this is something I guess that Prey has to deal with as well, is when you're doing these Predator sequels, is you have to go through all the same motions of the characters getting caught up on what they're up against and their, hunter's code of honor and all that stuff, which for the sixth sequel, it's like, can we kind of hurry through this part of the process? And I feel like Predator spends way too much time on playing at intrigue about things that I don't find intriguing. Maybe that makes it one of the few Predator sequels that you could watch before without having seen the original, and maybe would play it better that way.
Well, and I think that's part of the, making a sequel 20 years after the original, if we're not counting the Alien and Predators, you do have to make the assumption that a portion of your audience has not seen the original and is coming in cold, doesn't really know, and you do have to do a little bit. That's got to be the hardest part of these sequels, is trying to figure out how you strike the balance between, again, because they're not direct sequels. They're not. That's what we've joked about.
Yeah, we're not. It's not Dutch. The continuing adventures of Dutch.
Yeah. So it's you're not. People don't have to watch them. You could, in theory, pop in on any Predator movie, and then you do kind of have to re-explain. But that's why the benefit of not having that many things, okay, there's 4 things about the Predator you need to know. It's a sportsman. It's can see heat. Just give them these little things. Or you just do what the Predator did and said, hey, we've been studying these things and here's a bunch of scientific facts about it. And
the Predator had a better approach to that, I think, and that used that to just be like, all right, expedition dump. If you haven't been caught up, we'll catch you up right now and we can get into it. In terms of shitting on Predators, what I was getting at there was that I feel like they really dropped that ball and did the worst of both worlds, because they slowly figure out that they're on a game reserve and blah, blah, blah. But the Predators are sportsmen, right? And so they want the best killers Earth has to offer. So they handpick these people out to be good and then arm them to the teeth with their preferred weaponry and everything. But why is it part of their hunting game preserve that the prey has to figure out for themselves where they are and what's going on? Why not? Why couldn't the predators have armed them with the information of, hey, guess what? You're on a game preserve and we'll give you a 10-minute head start. Game on.
In what language do they communicate that?
Yeah, that looks like a note.
Lawrence Fishburne. I mean,
see, I don't think now that's another. That was actually. I feel like now we're just trading shots for the Predator and Predators, but in the Predator, there is a point where the Predator speaks English to, and that might be for me the worst moment in the history of the Predator franchise, of where they
do it a few times. He does.
I guess he did, but in repetition, repeating. I guess we do learn that they can repeat phrases that they've heard. That's a big part of the Predator. Right. But this one, they are actually
this is how he relates to Kevin McAllister. He's got the same mic recorder boy thing, whatever that is that he uses against his prey.
Sure. Yes, that's true. It's more. It is more just sort of parroting up until that point.
Right.
Or what is that? Which Transformer is it that just plays a tape deck in his chest of sound clips? That's how the original Predator does it. Soundwave, of course. Yeah. That's a small part of the Predator I thought was goofy, but also by that point, the only thing I was like, I'm trying to give you credit by giving you B movie goofiness brownie points here.
Which is the goofiest film? It is the Predator, right? I don't know. Predator 2
that's intentionally funny.
Predator 2 is super
Predator
goofy,
2 is...
but I don't... but because Predator 2 is a more enjoyable watch, I don't want to attach the word goofy to it because it seems more of a. So I'm like, I guess, but when you do think about it, with the size of the joints that those Jamaicans are smoking when they go into the car is
the cars
cartoonish. It's like, but still, for some reason, the Predator seems goofier.
Well, it's odd in that Predator 2 is goofy but not good natured.
Yeah,
but I think Predators fucks that up. That whole thing of just I think it turned to get me against it in that first half hour because I go like, why are we going through all these motions again? And you could like it works totally in sync with the Predator lore that they could arm. They are arming their targets, but so why do they need to hide the ball and like stalk them very slowly while they slowly figure it out? That's just because the first movie did it that way. Like in this environment, you could have them, whatever thing, just load them up front with the knowledge of what they're doing, and we're off to the races right away. And that would have been, I think, a good opportunity to make that movie just move faster and be more interesting to me. Prey, on the other hand, has to play it the other way of more slowly spooling out what's going on for the characters, I think.
But even there, 6 or 7 movies in, I don't mind being like, oh, here they are figuring out that it sees heat, or whatever. I don't know why that movie isn't repetitive, but it isn't. It is. It has enough new stuff and you care enough about the characters in it. I think.
Yes.
I think what's Naru, is that the character's name? I don't even remember.
I don't know.
I don't know any character's name in it. Yeah. But her and her brother.
You don't really hear the name that much.
No,
Right.
She's usually just her on screen with the dog and the Predator.
Right. That I think just the setting is so novel that it avoids feeling like just complete retreading.
Even the French trappers, are kind of filling in that role of like, well, we know what this is. Here's how this thing works. A little bit, like they kind of push you forward a little bit narratively there.
They kind of came in so late in the game. I'm like, what did we not, or what did she not know about them? It's hard because we knew it all to begin with,
right? Yeah,
and she had seen.
I'm sure that's something.
Because at that point, by the time she meets the traitor, she's already seen it fight the bear, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So she has seen what she's dealing with without knowing.
Yeah,
I guess whatever. But I do like in Prey, and I think one of the things that's interesting is that it's a character who has seen the Predator and is trying to convince other people. Like she's kind of alone, whereas like Predator, I guess Predator 2 kind of does that, but like having just this one character where it's like, no, I've seen this. I need to convince all my other people that this thing exists and that this is real. And everyone's like, no, you just didn't see anything. So there's like another interesting route towards that.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't play up a little more of like, that's she's like, no, I saw a Wendigo or whatever, some Comanche,
I love the Thunderbird at the beginning.
Their version of the Jersey Devil.
Yeah. The Thunderbird vision at the beginning, it's actually the ship. That I thought was really cool. Yeah. Cool way to use the setting and show me something neat. That was a new image, I think. The ship arriving in the cloud front. And yeah, it's again, this movie looks so good too. I think that's impossible to understate how just the change of setting adds to this thing, and that it is well photographed, and that it feels fresh and different, and kind of as a vaguely Last of the Mohicans-esque kind of period that we don't really see that often.
Like that's one of the things that we talked about earlier on is that just a new setting, just a new terrain. That
they kind of tried this. Like
Predator 2 did that, but I feel like we go back to the jungle so frequently in these sequels.
Yeah, that's my biggest disappointment about Predators, I think, is that it isn't. If you're going back to the jungle, make it an alien jungle. But it's the suburbs in the Predator. That's different.
It is.
They don't make much of it.
No, exactly.
I mean, you see kids trick or treating. That's
they never even make it to the shopping mall. That's the biggest failing of that thing. But yeah, it's not that you can drop it into any terrain, because I do think that ultimately Antarctica or like actual desert is not a very interesting terrain to hunt in for the Predator. No. But temperate forest as opposed to rainforest is,
a desert, something where it's hot enough that it would mess with the Predator's heat vision could be interesting. Like something where like the terrain actually becomes a
like a volcano
detriment
or
for
something.
the Predator.
Yeah.
The lava planet from episode 3 of Star Wars would be a great.
Yeah, well, I mean, the point is that a temperate forest was and just the landscape shots of that, the fact that they clearly actually shot outside.
Yeah.
That's part of what we're talking about with that want to see on the big screen. That
Mhm.
went a long way to just establishing this setting. The setting is important, I guess. That's something that's occurring to me now.
Hey, I mean, I'm not kidding. Do the Assassin's Creed thing. I mean, run it into the ground. Get me tired of seeing the feudal Japan predators or whatever. I want all that. If we can just and that's a thing for this B movie premise, which has succeeded, I think, in large part because it is such a B movie premise and it has these limitations and it's about working within them. It's not unlike a slasher film in that way. Yeah, just run with them. Just have some fun with that shit for a bit, until it goes dry, and then find a new way of getting at it. That would be what I would want more than anything for this, because I don't want the big blown out super version of Predator. I don't want the the $100 million one. Not really. Right. I want more of this, more like Prey, more weird stuff like that. I don't want a direct sequel to Prey. I think that would be a mistake. But I want them to keep kind of doing what they're doing, I guess is what I'm saying, which weird, but it's true. That's what I want from them.
I guess I want to keep doing what they're doing, except for lay off trying to make the Predators into heroes or good guys or allies. Just keep them nasty bastards. That's fine, and don't show us too much.
What do you? What would your pick for the next Predator be? Your pitch for Predator : next, whatever that one is going to be.
Are we talking about just like a historical setting to drop them into?
I mean, that might be all I need. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's almost like a reboot of the original Predator, except that this time it's hunting SEAL Team 6 in Afghanistan. They've just killed,
that's kind of cool.
Osama bin Laden, because it's a fictionalized version of it.
Right. Yeah. And you're in sort of like this big compound, and there's like a sandstorm or something, and there's a predator
and hostile territory.
Yeah,
you're already
really
like
cool.
You're in an urban environment where everybody, all the citizens hate the military team as well. I guess maybe it's more like it's Black Hawk Down, but also Predator.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
I mean, I think that you can just do it's like that, but also Predator. Like. We're talking if we were to do the period ones. I mean, I want the Northman, but also Predator. They've even got a volcano to fight in at the end. That's that sort of thing.
Isn't the Northman himself already the Predator?
Is he? Is he in one of those?
No, I just mean like in the movie The Northman, he like functions as.
That's why he's so perfect to match against the Predator. But that actually, we could go back to the home invasion. Do a Viking home invasion Predator movie. There's my pitch. Like they found a corpse. They're keeping it in the long haul.
You've got your Mad Libs out again.
Yes. And like, at night the Predators are going to come and get their Predator King or whatever the hell, and we have to defend it or they're going to eat us all. I mean, yeah, and they're Vikings doing it. Kind of looks like 13th Warrior. Yes, that's my
13th Warrior is not a bad version of that already, though.
Well, that's the thing. You can't just keep doing them. You can just remake movies, but there's a Predator, and it'll work.
Western Predator. I would watch a Predator that's a Western. I mean, that's a hard because it is like the desert, like you were saying. And
yes,
it's a hard thing with the weaponry too. Though I guess Prey is.
Prey
if you're assuming that the Predator is going to play down to the weaponry of their opponent.
That is what I assume, like to make Prey work, and what I don't want them to really explain ever, but just that they're using less. They're using
can't use guns against the Romans. Yeah, that should be a rule for them.
Yeah, I would also watch a far future Predator, like Earth in the future, Mad Max dystopian, and then the Predator. Like, show me Mad Max and the Predator shows up.
But isn't it a little weird that I did think about that? Like,
so
sort of like apocalyptic scenario, maybe like climate change is getting out of control. It's like Hurricane Katrina, but a predator is hunting people. But then I was like, I don't know what to do with that. Yeah. But I'm a little surprised. We got 2 Alien vs. Predator movies, and they put them in like present day. Like didn't use the colonial Marines, which is what you'd think would be the big thing of getting the video games. I think utilized that to its proper extent.
Huh. Good point.
That they have at least a little weaponry that Arnold and Carl Weathers didn't have. Like some new challenge.
All right, let's see. That's 3 good Predator movies, I think.
Yeah,
I'd watch all 3 of them. I'll watch whatever Predator movie they make. Is the bottom line, I think. They are, despite their best efforts, not able to burn me on these movies. Like, it's always kind of fun for me to watch a Predator film, and
the creature design and concept are just too good.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Like that.
I mean,
no matter how bad one is, like, yeah, but you could just do a good one next.
So yeah, anything they want to do, I'm game for. And it looks like we're going to start seeing. I guess I'm really shocked how quickly Prey came out after the Predator crashed and burned. So, and this one did very well by all accounts. So I guess we're just going to see more Predator movies, probably, huh?
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I'm on board.
Who knows? This franchise has not operated on any sort of like business logic that I have been able to see from it, like in terms of like what one movie makes versus how successful it is creatively. Does not seem to have anything to do with how or when the next one comes together. So
it's true. We could not get a new Predator movie until like 2039 or something, and it would be on brand. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us for this, Dan. This was fun.
Predator 2049. It hunts replicants.
Oh God. Okay.
I mean, we.
All right. I'm sorry. Bye, everyone. We're done.